Hello, everybody. Welcome, my friends, to Avana Intuitive here. I have Diane's Tarot tonight. Diane from Diane's Tarot and Diane'sAquarius.com. I cannot tell you how absolutely excited I am to have her here tonight. I do want to say hi to, I see Marie H., Good Juju, Sherry H., Robin D., Owens author,
Hey,
Kim D., of course, Ron Unconditional Love.
Hi,
He's
Ron.
going to be, he's going to be giving me a reading tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh.
And yeah, so I just thought we'd get started very quickly. And I just want to go through the list of all the things that Diane does. She reads and she's going to fill me in if I miss anything.
Okay.
She reads tarot cards.
I did.
She does ET channeling with the Rahasha Collective and other collectives. Mm-hmm. She channels the ArchAngels. She can do a pet reading for you, for your pet.
I love doing that.
Absolutely. And something that I don't know if she really talks a lot about, but has been really extremely helpful to me. She's a medical intuitive, and I'm going to tell my story a little bit later. And I don't know, did I miss anything, Diane? Because
I am a medium also.
You are. Thank you. Because, and let me tell you something. I have been a member of Diane's channel for a couple years now, and I have learned so much from her. And as a member of her channel, you do the live like mediumship like training once a month. We can join you in a group and we can practice that. Yeah. The Rahasha training, the art or channeling, the Archangel channeling. It's just being a member of Diane's channel and getting to know Diane over the last few years has just been a real joy, and I've just learned so much. And anyway, I'm just happy you're here.
Thank you.
Well, and thank you. Yep. But I do have a couple of questions just to get started. A couple of questions just to get to know you a little bit better. So my first question is, when someone finds out what you do for a living, what questions do they always ask?
I These are easy. Tell many people. Yeah. What do you do for a living? Well, I have 2 cats. Yeah. It's a full-time job. I'm a stay-at-home cat mom.
I understand. I have 4 cats and 2 dogs. I get it.
So I try to avoid it, but oftentimes you'll get that very stereotypical joke of, "Oh, can you predict the lottery numbers?" And it's like, yeah, it doesn't work like that. And somebody brought that to me the other day, and I said, in all the years I've been giving readings to people, nobody's ever won the lottery. I've never, because I think it would show up in the cards that like there'd be like this huge sum of cash coming, and yeah, it really doesn't work that way, because I think that's something that you write into your soul contract.
You know what? I was going to say the same thing. I've asked so many psychics, am I going to win the lottery? And they're like, absolutely not. It's not in your soul contract.
Exactly. And then if you notice, some people keep winning the lottery.
You're right.
They win it again and again, like the really big jackpots for millions of dollars. And I think it's not luck. I think it's just what they put in their soul contract. So.
And you know what? I think they learn a lot from it too. Some of them. When you win all that money, there's a lot of life lessons, I think, attached to that. You know what I'm saying? So that would make sense.
Right.
I mean, not for everybody.
Right. It's not always pretty, right? It's not always, money can solve a lot of problems, but it can also create new ones. And I think it makes you more of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you have karma involved, and that
I
sort
don't
of
like
thing.
The karma.
Right.
the good karma, that's okay. So you kind of don't tell anybody what you do. I don't blame you.
Keep it. I'll talk a lot about how I used to be a dementia practitioner and that sort of thing. Because the second you go into that territory, either they get weirded out.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's a little strange. Or they are like your new best friend. So I try to just kind of steer in the middle of things. So what I actually have a tendency to say is I'm like a meditation teacher. And I teach people, how to meditate, which is true, right? I do.
That's absolutely true, yeah.
Because the second you say that you're a YouTuber, that opens up another whole thing. So I try to steer clear of it, because especially if you go overseas, like I travel a lot, And that's all they care about is, oh, you're a YouTuber? Okay, what's your channel? Can I follow you? You know, like when I go to Egypt or when I was in Mexico all the time, like I love going to Mexico, but that's like all they care about. Like they get very obsessed with that in other cultures. Not that we don't,
Yeah.
but you know, they're like, oh, you know, you're American, you're a YouTuber, this is interesting. And so I try to steer away from that because then I think like they never actually get to know me. They're just knowing me on camera.
Right.
And let's face it, we can all look pretty, or at least make our lives seem pretty perfect.
Yeah.
You know, in a 30-minute video, right? And I don't think that's always a good indication of who we actually are sometimes.
Yeah.
So I always, you know, that's why I always try to be really, you know, transparent with people. Like when I had my surgery recently, like I said everything. I was very transparent. And when I had a stalker, I talked about it because if not, you get like put into this bubble where like your life is perfect. And it just isn't. My life isn't perfect, just like nobody else is perfect.
Exactly, just like nobody else. But you're right. When you see people always in a perfect setting and just talking about certain things, you don't think that there's other dimensions going on in their life that they're dealing with. Yeah, absolutely.
It's true.
All right. Thank you. But I have some more questions for you. So where would you go if you could go anywhere outside of the planet, and why?
Oh, well, I do remember living on Venus. That was one of my very first childhood memories. However, it's greatly changed and the atmosphere has changed, and the Ra, my soul family, no longer lives there. And I think we have so many entities that live in the Pleiades because those places are more habitable. Yeah. So I'd want to go to like where my soul family moved to, which is in the Pleiades.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You've told me in the past that I'm Pleiadian, so that's awesome. We can go hang out.
We're neighbors.
Absolutely. All right. So what favorite quote or saying that you like is like your go-to, like favorite quote or favorite saying?
There's always a good reason not to move. Whenever I sort of get down, whenever I feel unmotivated, I'm like, you know what? You can always come up with a good reason not to do it. You can always come up with a reason not to get out of bed. You can always come up with a reason not to take the risk, not to take the chance. And so whenever I start to feel unmotivated, I'm like, you know, there's always a good reason. You can come up with it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
I like that.
You know, then you got to move on. So
I don't know where it comes from, but not that I want to go into mine, but I have one kind of similar, which is I refuse to be discouraged because neither God nor man can use a discouraged soul. That's it. And I'll just think about it. I refuse to be discouraged. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's nice. All right. Last question is, and this is just a day-to-day kind of one. What 3 things will you not leave the house without?
Ooh. I'm so reliant on my cell phone, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would like to say my keys, but half the time I lock myself out of my house and my brother fortunately opens the door. You know, like I am somebody who loses things a lot. I'll be honest, like my head is like elsewhere, and like it takes such an effort for me to be grounded. I find that it's very easy for me to be in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy for me to like lose a debit or a credit card or lose my keys. So I would definitely say my phone for sure. But most of the time when I leave, I'm usually going someplace either with my fiance or my brother. So I don't have to worry about too much. I do have a tendency to bring water with me wherever I go.
Okay.
That I do. But other than that, yeah, no, I don't really need a lot. Like, and I don't like owning a lot. I don't like having a lot of possessions.
Yeah.
Probably the happiest time in my life was when I was living in Cambodia and living in a hotel. I love living in a hotel.
I've heard that that's actually a nice setup.
Oh, for like a year, I didn't have to do any laundry or cooking or cleaning or, I mean, it was beautiful. You know, so I'm not a big possessions person.
Yeah.
You know, like I've said on my channel, you know, like, because sometimes people say, oh, yeah, that's a pretty necklace. What, you know, well, if it's real, it actually comes from my fiance, Michael. If it's from me, it's literally like TJ Maxx. And, you know, I love the Betsy Johnson line. I've talked about that. But at the same time, I also get it at TJ Maxx and it's under $20. You know, and that way
Absolutely.
if something happens to it, then
You know what? You just
whatever.
put a period and move on. You don't have to worry about it, right?
But if I
That's
am
how.
going anywhere for any length of time, I do take my tarot cards.
Oh, I do too. Actually,
Yeah.
I have a deck in my purse, a little mini deck in like a metal tin,
Yes.
because I'm like, you just never know.
Yes. If I'm going for a few days, I will take my cards with me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Well, then to get into like the meat and potatoes here, I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about the Law of One and about the Rahasha Collective, because I know most people that are follow you obviously know all about it. I learned all about it through you, but I think there's some people out there that are a little bit confused about it. And so
Oh,
talk about.
okay. Well, I think a lot of times people hear the word Ra and they think of the Egyptian sun god. And two totally different ideations in some ways.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was going to ask you about that later. So those are different. Okay, go ahead.
They are different. The reason that the Egyptians came up with that, we find out from these 5 texts called the Law of One that Don Elkins wrote. Let me see, her name was uh, Carla. Carla was the one that did all the channeling. And Jim McCarty he's the only one that's still alive. And, a lot of what I talk about, with having a clean diet and diet being everything that you consume from what you see to what you say and what you hear and your diet is from them because they really could and should still be alive. I think there's no great reason. But if you're going to be a channeler, you do have to keep yourself as a clear conduit for sure.
Yeah.
So they went into trance channeling. They weren't looking for the Rock Collective. Nobody knew about them. This was like the early 1980s. But they started talking to this collective. And when you channel a collective, usually you just call them he or she because it's a lot easier than thinking it's a whole entire civilization. So I channel a subculture of them called Rahasha, but it's a whole culture. It's not just one person, even though you'll hear me always say he. But the Law of One is the idea that we all come from one creator and that we are all interconnected. Every single one of us, you and I, our pets, the trees, flowers, even our enemies, we are
Yeah.
all connected. And if you were to harm any of them, then it's harming yourself because we are all one. We all come from the same creator and we're all aspects of creator having a human experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that's
agree with
who.
that. In fact, that Law of One, I got kind of a good lesson about that a couple years before I even got into this. There was a lady at work who really, for some reason, had it out for me. It doesn't matter why. I don't even know
It
why.
happens.
Yeah. And I just said, what in the heck? And then one day I realized, you know what? God loves her just as much as he loves me.
Exactly.
And then it was like, whoa, what? How could he? No way. She's so mean. And it was like, no, it's all one. We're all one. And I just really was like, wow. That was that.
Right.
It was just eye
And
opening
that's
for me.
why when you hear me read on politicians, I don't always like the politicians that I'm reading on, but you also don't hear me making fun of them
Right.
or like wishing, like some people will actually wish horrible things on them. I don't. I wish some of them would go away,
Right.
but
Right.
that would be lovely. But I don't actually wish anything harmful,
Right.
and some of
Right.
them do need to face justice. They
Right.
need for their karma to come around and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that politician that you can't stand was made by the same creator as you.
Yeah. And
And that
oftentimes,
is an
go ahead.
and that is an aspect of you that you don't like.
I was going to say, when I don't like someone, I realize that's me. If I don't like you, well, then there's something in me that I'm not liking because, it's just so fascinating, all of this. Okay. So I have to tell you, and I want to get your input on a picture I took. And first of all, I'm going to establish, it's of my dog. And he was walking by one day and I said, oh my gosh, he has markings on his back and like his end that look like the Pleiadian constellation.
I
I'm
love
sitting there
it.
watching TV and I glance over, I'm like, I got to get a picture of this. But just to get everything established, these are my 2 dogs. This is Sarge, the American Bulldog, and then Bella, that's his wife. She's like a German Shepherd mix. I rescued them about 4 years ago when they were 10. They're about 14 now. So Sarge was walking by one day and don't you know, I look at him, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is like the Pleiadian constellation. So I go to take a picture of him, and he started to move, and I thought, I'm going to get a blurry picture, and I heard, just take the picture. And I'm like, fine. This all happened in like a split second. So I clicked the picture.
Right.
I thought, it's going to be blurry. I don't care. Didn't even look at it. So I took the second picture, and then this is these. I know it might be.
I love
like
it.
7 like dots here, and I'm
7,
like,
right? You get the 7.
yeah, it looks like the I wish I could get it closer, but it looks like the Pleiadian constellation. I'm like, he must be a gift from my Pleiadian friends. Okay,
The 7 sisters.
yeah.
Well, like I always say, like, we're 3rd density going into 4th, and I know sometimes people get confused. Because everyone always talks about 5D and about dimensions, but I'm talking about density levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
And so, like, we're 3rd density. Our pets are 2nd density, but time has no beginning or end. So right now, you are a 2nd density dog. You're also an 8th density God creator like.
Yes, like, because time is dynamic. It's not linear. We look at it linear, but it's
elliptical.
Everything's happening like all at once.
In the now.
Yeah, and that's all we have is the now.
And for our pets too, our pets are no different. It's not like God makes a bunch of souls one day and say, okay, well, this batch is going to be a dog soul batch day, and this is going to be a iguana batch day. God makes souls or creator, whatever you want to call it. And once again, I'm saying he just because I think it's easier for us to think of him that way. But in reality, it's just a gigantic ball of like a massive ball of energy, right?
Absolutely.
That needs us to experience for it.
I kind of look at it like we're just these ribbons, like these separate ribbons within this big ball of energy. You know what I mean? That's kind of how my mind can like handle it, because it just is kind of mind-boggling. I mean, in a good way. So I had taken the second picture, and I don't know when I look back at it. I'm gonna actually show it on my phone. It might be better. This is what I got for the second picture. I thought I was going to have a blurry picture. And instead, what in the heck, I said, is this, right? It's like pink and with a gold like orb flying through. This was the picture I thought was blurry. So I said, what?
That looks almost like an angel picture.
That's what I thought, okay? I'm like, I've kind of been praying to Mary Magdalene lately and meditating with her and this Lord Lanto. And then, of course, I love Metatron, right? So anyway, you can't see it great. I know. This is like the best I can do. But this was the picture that I thought was just going to be his rear end blurry. And I'm like, wow.
But also, too, remember, too, that our pets also have auras. We have auras, and so do our pets. Our pets have the 7 chakras that we do, plus an 8th one between their shoulder blades.
You are right, and I didn't think of that.
So they also have an aura, and so you can sometimes capture auras with humans and pets.
And you know what? That is really resonating with me, because he loves me so much that I could see him being just bathed in like pink light, like just because he's always following me. He's always by me. He's always laying by me. Oh my gosh, he's such a little sweetie pie. So I just thought that was very interesting. And
I love it.
I know, my little sweetie pie. So, okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is you also do on your site. I know the members site, part of the site, you have so much content on there, which is just so helpful. I've gone through like, if not, I know it's so crazy. Wonderful, because it's so easy to like learn how to do things, like meditate or channel or what. I mean, you've broken it down to the basics and really just presented in such a nice way. But I have to tell you my story about how I got my name Avana from Avana Intuitive through your meditation, one of the meditations that you have posted. I had a reading with you a long time ago, and you said I'm a Pleiadian. That totally resonates, and that one of my guides is named Kaivana, and I said that resonates too. So I'm like, okay. So then I did one of your meditations, and I got the name. Well, as I was laying in bed, and I was meditating. What's the name of another spirit guide? And I got the name Alvana, Alvana. Mm-hmm. And the weirdest thing, Diane, was while I was meditating, I could feel my brain get moved over. Didn't hurt or anything, but I could feel like this moved over. And I heard My name is Avana. And when you look this up later tonight on the internet, which I know you will see that this is a Pleiadian name. And I was
Love
like,
it.
yeah, like, how do you know what I'm going to do? Like, who are you? And I wasn't scared though. It was really cool. So I come out of the meditation and my first thought was, well, I didn't get any information. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I did get information. So of course I go to the internet, I look up the name Avana, and it says old Pleiadian name under one of those.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, well, how about it? So if anyone's interested, I've had people ask me about their spirit guides, get onto Diane's site, become a member. I'm serious, get into this meditation. It was crazy cool, okay? So then, this isn't arrogance, although it sounds like it. I decided that I didn't want to call her Avana because that sounded to me like Alvin and the Chipmunks. So I decided to call her Avana. So the first time I'm like, well, Avana, and she said right away, my name's Avana. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm going to call you Avana because, I don't want you to sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. She's like, my name is Avana. And then I'm like, okay, you got it. And I thought, that's fine, Avana. So I'm like, well, who is Avana? Right? I'm getting this name Avana, and I'm like, that's me. And when I was doing the tarot cards later, I got the Three of Cups. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's Avana, and this is Alvana, and this is Kaivana. And I'm like, oh my gosh, every time I
get the three of you.
Yeah, I just looked at it. Every time I get this card and I'm reading, it really resonates. I just know I'm on the right track. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh yes. And every time I see this, I'm just very, very happy about that. So I just wanted to bring that. I thought it was pretty cool.
It's really nice. And I think sometimes we forget that our higher selves, we all have a higher self that resides in 6.5 density, right? The law of one talks about this. And our higher selves do have a name.
Yeah, that's true.
Our higher selves have a name. We do have a real name. So
that is so crazy.
I love it. But I don't believe in, coincidence. I believe more in synchronicity. And so you finding that is really important.
And what I'm finding is the more that I do get into this stuff, the more synchronicities I'm uncovering. Yes. And like, if I do research on something, things start to connect. Like in fact, something I want to talk about right now. I really feel, and I don't know why, I still am kind of trying to work this out. I don't know why I feel connected to Archangel Metatron, but I do. So okay. So I started, studying and doing some research on Metatron. And I found out that he was once named Enoch, and he walked the earth. Yes. He was brought up to sit and be a scribe. He does many things. I mean, I know truly how his level. But one of the things is he scribes like in the Akashic records, and he writes down everything that you do, everything you think, and darn it, he writes down the intention that you have.
Right.
I don't like that part. No. But anyway, he writes everything down. So then I was studying in the Akashic records, which I'm still doing, which I love. And we opened up the records one day for Thoth, or Thoth, which is the Egyptian. He actually was an Atlantean high priest during Atlantis. And he was there, and then Atlantis obviously had its issues and fell into the ocean or whatever. And then he moved to Egypt for 14,000 years, and he ruled Egypt. Well, it turns out he's like the scribe of the Akashic records. And I'm like, this is making me think like Metatron and him are like connected. It was just different times, like 2,000 years ago. Yeah, like 2,000 years ago, it would have been Enoch who got, raised to be Metatron, who's the scribe. But then 36,000 years ago with Thoth, and then, through Egypt and that, I'm just kind of coming up with these connections, and I'm like, this is really interesting. So I'm glad we're talking, because I did have that question, because it said that Thoth he was like the moon, and he ruled the night, and then the sun god Ra ruled the daytime. And
we're opposites. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Thoth, actually. So just like everyone knows, I don't touch him. I won't work with him.
Oh, you don't?
And it's like, no.
Really?
Because he's been sort of corrupted by occultists. I mean, you have to remember, if you have a Thoth deck, well, who created it? Aleister Crowley. in some of the darkest circumstances, right?
Oh my
of
gosh,
his
I
life.
had no idea. I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't touch them. So I do. I mean, I do work a little bit with Egyptian gods here and there. I've been to Egypt. I've studied it. You know, I channeled the Ra Collective, and the connection from the Ra Collective with the Egyptians is that they came down. They helped build that very first pyramid, and that was that. They realized that they corrupted humanity. They backed off. They thought humanity was further along than what they were.
Oh, I didn't understand that.
So they backed off, and that's why they said, we will never come back down, but we will work with you as channelers.
Oh,
We
okay.
will channel with you. So they said, we'll
Okay.
never come back down. We'll protect the earth. We'll keep anything from, you know, like any of those negative entities from coming in, like the negative extraterrestrials, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have like, because yeah, Thoth is very dark. That's why, you know, Satanists and the Luciferians, which, and they're not all necessarily bad. I mean, your average Satanist actually doesn't even believe in Satan. You know, they don't actually do rituals anymore. They've moved past that, but they do have a darker mindset than the love and light. So it's sort of like, it's kind of a duality. So I mean, Metatron is quite different than Thoth. Even though Metatron, yes, did walk the earth just like Ezekiel did, and Ezekiel became Sandalphon, which is the angel of music, right? So out of the 15 mainstream archangels, they're the only two that their last names, or their first names rather, end with O-N. The rest end with E-L, coming from Elohim, the original name for God. But if you notice, Metatron's name does not say that he is of God, just like Sandalphon's doesn't. He is not of God. So he's something else. And so I kind of steer clear, not that like I'm afraid, I'm certainly not afraid. And I don't think anything bad's going to happen if you channel Metatron. I certainly don't. It's just when you are a channeler, you have to adjust yourself to different vibrations. And I think Metatron, what I get from him is just so bizarre. Out of all the angels, he's the only one I don't actually get whole sentences and like paragraphs from. I get more like he's a computer program at this point.
Really?
I get more that he's like AI. He's gone to the point where he's just pure consciousness.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I just get kind of like randomness when I channel him. So I kind of just steer clear because I mean, there's so many other entities for me to channel that I can.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with him. It's just I don't click with him.
Right. Well, that's why I keep wondering too, like, what is my connection with him? I don't know, but he seems to keep coming up in like the research I'm doing or whatever. And not that I want everyone to realize I'm not really researching the dark side here, but in like the stuff that I'm doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, he just keeps coming up. And I'm like, and I do feel like close to him. You know what I mean? I feel like there's something. I know that I've heard that he works with children. I've actually heard that he you know, is actually very lighthearted and has a very, you know, like one guy told me that he well, I don't know if he was channeling him, but he seemed to get closer and he just couldn't stop giggling. Like he just felt like very joyous. Joyous. And I'm like, Metatron, are you sure? You know?
I mean, he's very stately. He's one of the higher up angels.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not exactly all, you know, totally equal. They're all a little different in their own ways.
Right.
But I find like, he's just more like pure consciousness at this point.
Very interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, that was like, that's some heavy stuff going on right there. I don't care what anybody says. Okay. I do want to talk too about, and I know you're not going to, you know, you need to go in a few minutes, so we're not going to talk too long on this, but I just wanted to say that Diane I want to remind everyone, she's also a medical intuitive. And about a year ago, she gave me some information for a family member regarding a health issue. And that health issue took about 9 months to come up, but it did come up. And I just wanted to she knows this, and I wanted to, when it happened, because she had warned me about it, okay, because she had brought it up that she had seen this health issue, it was in my back pocket, and I knew to act on it when it finally surfaced, because I really had no idea. I'm not going to go into who it was. It was a family member. I'm
Right.
not going to go into what it was, but I just want to say, if you guys ever need, a medical intuitive, she really is really good at it. And again, she probably saved my family member's life, really, because bringing it up, yeah, absolutely, and talking about it, and pointing it out to me when things started to escalate, I knew right then, I think this is what she's talking about, and we're not messing with it. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say, I wanted to say thank you about that. So
Oh, you're welcome.
I thought you could just let us know what you have coming up, and I'll let everybody know what I have coming
Goodness.
up, and then maybe we could pull a couple of cards for the collective, and there you go.
Well, after this on my channel, I'm having Andre come on. Andre's an astrologer, so we're going to talk some astrology on my channel.
I'm going to watch it. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm getting a reading from him on Wednesday. This Wednesday.
He's fantastic.
I can't wait.
He is very spot on. He's extremely accurate.
Yeah.
He's scary accurate.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to, tomorrow, I've been busy packing today. I'm going to my favorite place on earth, which is Salem, Mass. Right. Michael and I, my fiance and I, we're going to a Valentine's masquerade ball, and they do this like illumination of ice sculptures, and it's just, I think it's going to be gorgeous, and I'm excited.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
So what are you up to?
So what am I up to? So every Sunday I post at 11 a.m. a 3-card weekly pool. So that's Sundays at 11. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. I post on the Akashic Records. I started to do just a quick 20-minute show or so answering some questions from the Akashic Records. But I did have on Monday, February 20th at 2 o'clock, I'll be on Gerald's show, Gerald Tarot Stash, and me and him and Kelly with Dozen Cats Wellness Tarot. We're going to be pulling some cards for people. And that same evening, me and Heather with Indigo Jaguar, Indigo Arts, we are going to be doing the, I think it's new moon readings. We usually do full moon and new moon readings. We switch off each other's channel. So that's it. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, actually, it's not too bad. So I don't know if you want to pull a couple cards very quickly for the collective. We'll see what, for the next, like maybe between now and the end of the month and the end of February.
Sure.
I can read. Well, if you don't mind, I'll read my cards first, and then we can wrap it up with yours. All right.
Go right ahead.
The first card that I got is the Tower card. I know everybody hates to see that. I love it though, because it means, you know what? It means change is coming, freedom. You're getting released from things that are really just driving you crazy, that really should be going away anyway. Which is nice. And then I got the 5 of Swords. It looks like someone might even battle you for that. Like whatever, you're holding on to something. I'm getting the feeling you're holding on to something that you don't really need. And it just sounds like it might be time to let it go. And the reason I say that is because I actually then got the Knight of Wands, a new creative beginning, and coming in with a fiery spirit moving forward. And the last card I got then was the 9 of Pentacles. You're sitting there in your garden, enjoying your tea, your coffee, your life of luxury, and saying, basically, I should have let them have all that stuff a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because it's of no use to me now, and I've moved on.
It's kind of like February came in like a lion and out like a lamb, which is not the saying, but. So mine is interesting. Mine is about feeling like we have to persevere right now. Feeling like maybe things are a bit challenging, like there's some drudgery in our lives. Like we just kind of have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And my second card's always my obstacle card. So we're lacking some passion and enthusiasm right now. I think we're in the doldrums of winter. That's what I think it is. But we end up the month on a very positive note with, like reaching milestones and having accomplishments, reaching our goals, celebrating with friends and family, that kind of thing. So we start off sort of like, oh, okay, I just have to put one foot in front of the other, but we end up on a much more positive note. So hang in there.
Absolutely.
Hang in there.
All right, Diane, thank you. This has been a real treat. I totally appreciate it.
Anytime. It was my pleasure.
All right. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.